Hello, today I'm going to give you some feedback on your CSE number 1, which was on images, pictures, and paintings. And so I want to just go through each part of the CSE graphic organizer. So starting with claim, one of the things with claim is you really need to make sure that your claim is defensible. That means, does it require a defense? Does it require evidence to help prove? If it's just a statement of something obvious, then it's actually not a claim. So the sentence starter I used for my claim was just answering our essential question. And I said, photographers shape our idea of who we are as Americans by. So you are welcome to use that sentence starter and finish that on your own. A lot of you had really excellent claims that were pretty impressive. So way to go on that. Okay. The next thing that we need to do is to write our supporting evidence. So you want to think about that you're creating a case that you're presenting to a jury where you're trying to prove your claim. And you say, okay, jury, your first evidence that I'm going to give you, here it is. And when you give the jury your evidence, you need to explain really specifically where you got that evidence. And that's what we call a tag. Tag is title, author, and genre. It kind of introduces the evidence. So one of the ways that you do that is you can just say in his genre, and then the title, comma, then the author, and then a power verb. So for example, here's my example. In Defend the Sacred, Ryan Vizians depicts. So the genre would go here, here's the title, here's the author, and then here's a power verb. Here I didn't actually say that it was a photo. I didn't do the genre because I had already told that I was just talking about photographs, but I do think I should have probably put in the photo. Okay, the next thing that I noticed after people, some people did tag, some people didn't. So we've told the audience where our evidence is from, and now we really need to describe the evidence. So I want you to describe the picture and the portraits or whatever image you're using in detail. Imagine your audience has never seen your photo or your picture. Imagine if you're writing about songs later this week that your audience has never heard the song, so you really have to describe it in detail. So up here, I put, for example, in the photo Defend the Sacred, Ryan Vizians depicts the Standing Rock protest by juxtaposing one man against a lineup of police. I could do more with that and add more details, but for the sake of my argument, that's enough. So now I go over to my explain my reasoning. This is after you've presented your evidence, you really have to explain to your jury, hey, here's how my evidence helps prove my claim. So one of the things that I often do is actually answer this question and say, this helps prove my claim by... Now here's kind of the tricky thing. Once I actually write that and answer that, how it helps prove my claim, I actually cross this out because it's a pretty, I would say, beginning level of writing. So just write the answer to it, but then cross that out. Or you can even start just thinking it. And that's what I did up here. I could have written, this helps prove my claim by. Here's my answer. Vizians invites the viewer to get to know more about the Standing Rock community and its protest of Dakota Access Pipeline through this provocative image. So here I had said in my claim that he was going to introduce us to stories of communities that are different from our own. And I connected those and said, yep, he's inviting us in to get to know this community that we don't know much about. So now I'm going to go on to my second piece of evidence. I've given a pretty good piece of evidence, but I need more to help prove my claim. So again, I'm going to go back down here to my supporting evidence, and this time I might put a transition is another photographer or another image. And again, I always have to tag that. And so I'm going to put the author, and then a power verb, something like this. So another photographer, and then you can put the author, and then a power verb. Then I get my genre in there, and my title, and then I'm ready to go. So I did something similar here. Another photographer, Michelle Agins of the New York Times, invites the viewer into the Haitian community of New York after a major earthquake struck Haiti. Since there wasn't a specific title to that photo, I didn't put the title in, but it is very clear where it's from and the person that I'm actually talking about. So I'm going to consider that tagged. Then I'm going to go over to my explain my reasoning, and here I want to give you some more sophisticated sentence starters that you can use in your explaining your reasoning. So here are some sentence starters that you could use. If blank, comma, then blank. While blank, comma, blank. Although blank, comma, blank. Because of blank. Oh, I actually wrote the word blank, comma, blank. And these can go in any of these explaining your reasoning. So if X is true, then Y will happen. While X is true, we need to consider Y. And although X is true, similar, we need to consider Y. Because of X, Y is going to happen. So there are a lot more of these, but these are going to give you some good sophisticated ways to start your explaining your reasoning. And eventually we'll get to where your explaining your reasoning is twice as long as your supporting evidence. So check and make sure on your evidence that you've tagged each of them, that it's very clear to your audience where you got your evidence from, that you've really described it in detail. So it's imagine they've never seen it or heard that before. And then over here that you've tried your explaining your reasoning using one of these sentence starters or answering this question here, but then kind of crossing off that this helps prove my claim by. Last thing is we have our so what, and this is the conclusion of your sentence. And instead of just repeating what we've already said, we are going to trust that the audience heard what we said and that we actually had a good argument, and now we want to tell them what to do with it. So here you can think about implications of your argument. You can think about next steps you would like the audience to make. You can think about consequences of your argument. You can even just begin to introduce a counter argument. Okay. Lots of different things can happen in that so what. This is really like, why does this matter? Why does your argument even matter? And one way you can get some sentence starters for those is from this explaining your reasoning. So actually all of these can also go down here. Your if-then statements, your while statements, your although, because of statements, even though, those could all go down here. Just one last thing I'd like to show you is that this part you can think of as they say. Okay. This is what someone else says. This is what someone drew or wrote about in a piece of music or in a speech. And then over here, this is really the I say. This is your thinking about that evidence. And this is really what matters. Making sure that each piece of evidence is explained and that you explain how it supports your claim. You'll have a good solid paragraph. So make sure you're using my example. It's not perfect, but it's a good place to get started to see how yours compares. Always come in and get help. I can support you as much as needed, and we can always revise, but go back to yours now and see what you could do next to make it even stronger. All right, thanks.